What's up, guys? What's up? All right. Let me turn this music down now. All right. How is everybody doing? Eugene in the house. What's up, Eugene? Deaver Smith. What's good? Coog Sauce. One of the guys now. What's up, fellas? What's up, Coog Sauce? Gonna give everybody. I'm gonna turn them while we're chilling here, waiting for everybody to kind of join in. I'm gonna turn it up. I'm gonna turn it on a little bit. All right. Why does that seem so loud to me, though? Does that seem like loud to you guys? Aki, I'm here. Aki, Bucks here. Bucks in the house. All right. While we wait for give people some more time to join, let me pull up some of the stuff we're going to talk about. Lee, man, had like the never-ending cold. The never-ending cold, man. It's like probably like 4 weeks ago. I'm just constantly stuffed up, man. It's been brutal. ASM, welcome to the chat, man. Thanks for chatting. Hello from Cali. Yeah, a little early over there. Yeah, I guess it's about to be what, 10 o'clock? Not too bad. But welcome to the chat, ASM. Coog Sauce is hilarious. It is a hilarious name, 100%. Remember, guys, I'm getting everything pulled up here that we're going to be talking about. Just making sure I have everything we need while everyone continues to join. We got the top 100 relief pitchers announced. We've got the top 150 starting pitchers announced. So that should be fun. We'll talk about that. There's actually a really funny thing we're going to talk about. Again, guys, I mean, we are 1 week away at this point now. We are 1 week away from the season starting, and that's exciting. Buck, can't wait to do a watch party and some weekend games. I hope everyone has ESPN Plus. I got it just for college baseball a few years ago. By the way, their multi-box with commentary during the tournament is amazing. Yeah, I mean it's awesome. Like it's just the fact that you can basically watch almost any Division I baseball game is awesome. Although once my son's tournament schedule kicks in late March, we'll be at the field most weekends. Yeah, it's how it is. You know, you're right. I mean, once that summer ball tournaments get going, makes it a little bit more difficult. Okay, let's see if we got anything from this guy. All right, we're gonna start out probably with the funny one before we get going here. Good example of schools. All right, so let's go. Let me. All right, we'll go back to this one, but let me pull up. All right, we're gonna start off with the funny one, okay? All right, guys. Deaver, what's up? Let me see. Was wondering if you heard why Carson Sabathia switched to Houston. That was shocking. I just don't think he was gonna get a lot of playing time. I mean, that's all it was. You know, I watched him hit BP. I mean, I see he's a big body, big time power. I just don't think, again, guys, like this is what you have to understand is that they're not going to play somebody who they don't think is the best option. Um, let me just make sure. They're not going to play somebody unless they think he's the best guy for the job. So what you have to understand is from that transferring, that meant that he was not going to be playing much, right? That's all it is. Um, there's nothing else. There's nothing else besides that. It's just the fact that he was not going to be the guy at first base or DH. He wasn't the best option at either one of those places. Now he probably disagrees, but he's not the one riding the lineup. So he made the right decision. Transferred to Houston. Hopefully, hey, prove him wrong. You know what I mean? But that's the only reason guys leave typically, unless they're a superstar and they're going to get, big time NIL money somewhere else. But like you guys have heard me say before, I mean that's rare. So that's what happened. I know. I mean, I talked to the over the last couple of years. I talked to the staff about him, and they said the same thing. They're like, he's got like unbelievable power. Like they used him in some pinch hit situations because they're like, if he runs into one, it's he's going to tie the game. But they just didn't feel like he was going to hit enough. That's it, right? And this is I have a video coming out today about outfielders, but and a little bit about corner infielders and even middle infielders. Just what the strategy is in recruiting these guys now. And it's like I tell you guys. Let me turn the music down now. It's like I tell you guys. Like, you know how hard it is to be a corner outfielder or a corner infielder in college baseball right now? Like, you have to perform at such a high level, or they're just going to go get a guy in the portal every year. Like, they'll go fill the corner outfield with portal guys every year. That's it. So, like, you better, if you're a freshman, you better be like in my video, I say, you better be a special bat. And by special, I mean, as a freshman, you're pushing all ACC, you're pushing freshman All American. If that's not the caliber of player you are, like, you're not playing anymore in college baseball. Like that's what I'm trying to convince you. And again, we're talking at the Power Four level. That expectation is going to be a little bit lower at your generally speaking, your normal mid major. That expectation is going to be a little bit lower at the lower tier D1s. But across the Power Four and across like the elite mid majors, that's the idea. Generally speaking, right? There's going to be some programs that handle things differently, but generally speaking, you know, when coaches say, "Why would I recruit a high school outfielder?" That's why, because you can just go get a guy at whatever school that hit 330 with 12 home runs, and like he's going to perform. You know what you're going to get. You're bringing in a player where you're almost 100% certain the output you're going to get. And like I've told you guys 1,000 times, with high school players, you have no idea what you're going to get. No one thought I was gonna be a freshman All American and first team All ACC as a freshman. Nobody. Even if they thought I was a good player, they were probably like, "Oh, he'll have a good year," but no one would have predicted that. There's very few guys who you can look at them and be like, "That's what's going to happen." Kevin Parada was one of those type guys when I was coaching him his freshman year. I saw him for a week in live, inter squads and live BP, and I told a lot of the scouts I know who were at the games. I said he's going to be the freshman of the year in the ACC, and he ended up being the runner up. So I was close, but it was easy to tell with him just because his offensive profile, the way his swing moved, how clean his mechanics were. He just had an amazing swing, really good bat speed, so he was going to hit, and he had some instincts for hitting. Not as instinctual as a hitter as people would have thought, but I think he had enough as a freshman that it was just he took over. Cougs, our first baseman was a senior, so hopefully he can fill in. I've heard the same as you said describing. I've heard the same as you just said describing Sabathia. Yeah, I mean, and this is the thing, guys. Like, that coaches can be wrong, right? Coaches can swing and miss. They swing and miss all the time too. So, but again, like this is what as a player, and I talk about this in some of my videos. The only person's opinion you should care about is the one who writes the lineup. So like, yeah, I've trust me, I've been there in pro ball like all the time where you have a coach that you disagree with, or you don't think you may think he doesn't know as much as he does, or he says he does. But at the end of the day, if that guy's writing the lineup and he's telling you, well, this is why you're not playing, you should at least take it seriously and make some adjustments. And I'm not saying that's what happened. I'm just saying, coaches can be wrong. They can think a player is not going to be good enough, and then they end up going somewhere else and they ball. It's just how it works. Canes, what's up, man? Good afternoon. Zach, what's up, man? This time next week we will have D1 baseball back. That's right, man. That's right. This time next week. I was waiting. I was waiting for the stream, dude. Yeah, I mean, like I said, it's generally going to be around this time when I start. It's just sometimes, again, having young kids, it's sometimes you just, and I work from home, so if I can help out, I'll try. So sometimes we, move it around a little bit, but this is typically around the starting time. My son is a 27 outfielder, but he is also a lefty pitcher sitting 85, 86, 15 years old. I still think with the way the winds are blowing, 1 year of JUCO is in his future. I mean, no, I mean, this is the thing, Graham. I mean, left-handed, again, there's one position that's not being nearly as impacted as all the others, and it's pitching. And I know you've been in here, a decent amount of times now, leaving comments and stuff. And this is every team I talk to is like, we need left-handed pitching, left-handed bats. So, again, don't assume that he's going to have to go to JUCO. He's at 27 and he's throwing 85, 86. Like, he's in a really good spot, and for velo wise for a lefty. So again, it's just monitor how he develops, right? He can't even have contact until August 1st. So, see what happens then. But you just, he's got plenty of time to make a decision on JUCO. I mean, he could wait until his senior year to make that decision and still get into a really good JUCO. Did you guys at ESA have a meeting between each other after the ASU news to discuss it? No, we haven't. We probably will talk about it next week. We have our team meeting is every Thursday. And we were honestly, what we were talking about the whole time, Canes, was, client updates and everything like that. But kind of what was word going around town, which what we do every weekend we do. But it just seemed like that every one of us was kind of like, man, like everybody just wants, nobody wants a high school outfielder, and nobody wants, to be honest, nobody wants high school players, as nearly as much as they used to. And it's just kind of getting worse. The quote yesterday was, "Why would I recruit a high school outfielder?" Or why are you sending me high schoolers? So, I mean, that's what, a couple mid-major coaches are saying. So it's just, you got to have the ability to understand what's going on and what the environment is and make a decision. But Graham, back to you, I think, just see what happens. He's in a good spot. I mean, the 85, 86 is a 27, really good. And if he's a left-handed hitter, which I hope he is, then again, that's what everyone's always looking for: lefty bat, left-handed pitcher, like that. Everyone's always looking for that. So, he won the lottery with, like me, and lefty guy, except I couldn't pitch, unfortunately. We want high school players. Yeah, I know you do. I know Miami does. And again, it's not like they're still going to bring in high school guys, but the point is, like, the high school position player is just being, generally speaking, across college baseball, is being decimated. South Carolina head coach said in his interview that the 26th class is their first recruiting class in his opinion. He also said he wants to build through high school. I mean, they all say that, dude. But like, In the SEC, if you're not going after portal guys, you're losing. He is a lefty hitter. Nice, nice. Scott, what's up, man? Hey, coach, my son is a freshman in high school. His high school likes to have players play one position, PO or positional. How do you feel about it? He plays mainly outfield. Um, I mean, I think it's fine, right? I don't like guys being. I mean, listen, some guys are just pitchers, right? They're just not good hitters. They're not good defensively, so they should be a PO. That's fine. But if your son's athletic and he's, good in the outfield, good hitter, and he pitches, like, why are we making him? Why are we making him pick one? It's a little bit ridiculous. So I don't agree with it. Um, and then with one position, I mean, of course, he's going to play one position in the field during the games, but I would like to see him get, take a few rounds of BP in the outfield, take some ground balls in the infield. Like, I just like players developing versatility because ultimately, if their goal is to play college baseball, you have to be the most versatile you can be in this environment. You can't be a one position guy or anything like that. In 2026, all their hitters are shortstops, and the rest of the commits are left-handed pitcher or right-handed pitcher. Yeah, what did I tell you? What did I tell you guys? I think I said it yesterday. Like I'll hear parents. I'm gonna turn the music off now because we're rolling now. Um, I hear parents all the time say, "Well, they don't have a third baseman committed, and my son plays third. We need to reach out to them." And I go, I pull it up, even though I know what I'm going to see, and it's like you said, Canes. It's like there's five shortstops committed, and I have to tell them like those five shortstops can play second, third, left, right. Probably a few of them can play center. So they don't need a third baseman. They have five shortstops committed. Only one of them can play shortstop. So what a lot of parents do wrong is they look at the perfect game commitments again, which like they're just looking at commits, and what a lot of parents think is like, well, they don't have a catcher committed. And they make the assumption that they are going to have, again, like a whole eight positions of the playing field covered in the recruiting class, pitchers, and that's just not the case. So, for example, when we actually brought it up the other yesterday in the meeting, one of our guys had a client who, a school had basically said, we're not recruiting that position. And we're not looking for any of those guys. We got two of those guys in the previous class. We don't need any in this out of high school in this class. And then they committed the guy in that position 2 days later. And so the parent was like, "Hey, what's going on? You said that they said they weren't recruiting that position and they just committed a guy." And like I've told you guys, one of our advisors reaches out and they say, "Oh, he's not going to play that position. Like we just like his bat, but he's not going to play that position." So that's a lot of times what parents don't understand is that, again, just because they don't have a third baseman committed doesn't mean they're looking for one. They may be going to go to the portal to get it, or they may just be, well, you know what, we're gonna recruit a bunch of high school shortstops, and then which is what every Power Four team does. They just recruit guys up the middle. It's like unless it's an elite bat at a corner position, you're going center field, shortstop, and then a catcher, right? And so you're going to get second baseman and shortstops because both of those guys can probably move to third. And then, if you see some elite bats in corner positions, you'll go after them. But then you're recruiting a center fielder or two or whatever, and then those guys can play over the field. So if you're recruiting a third baseman out of high school, he's typically never going to make the move to shortstop, right? And if you only bring in one, maybe you get him on campus and the shortstop, and he's not as good defensively as you thought he was going to be. And now you only have one. Now you're like, well, what are we going to do? So you recruit three or four of those guys, and then you let the best man win, and then the other two guys either move to second, or three guys second, third, maybe some guys to the outfield. But that's how recruiting is done. Deaver Smith level out. South Carolina also had MLB prospect that they benched last season, Kennedy Jones for UNC Greensboro. They laugh out loud. They say anything? Did he transfer to UNCG? Is that what you're saying, Deaver? By the way, here's the funny thing I was going to bring up. So guys, Just remember, this is college basketball. This is who your 17-year-old senior is competing with for scholarships. Oh my gosh, look at this dude. I told you guys this. Yeah, like I told you guys this. Like look at this guy. This guy is like married with a kid and he's playing college baseball. And what that's like maybe I've had a few of these now. So what's that like a 5 month old baby, 6 month old baby? He's probably got 2 or 3 years left eligibility too. You know what I mean? Or Canes, exactly. Any kid playing shortstop in high school is likely the best defender on his high school team. Exactly, right? And also, you what you have to understand is that a shortstop is not just the best defender, probably, but he's usually probably the most athletic, right? Because he's got good footwork, he's got quick release, he's got good arm strength, so he can just move to any position on the field. Like there's a lot of shortstops that end up moving to center field because they're actually good enough runners and they're athletes. Um, so a shortstop, like you recruit shortstops because you can almost put them anywhere else on the field, right? That's why I wish I had been a right-handed thrower because then I could have played infield and been like a super utility type player. But since I was a left-handed thrower, they're not going to put me at first base. Next level prospect South. What's up, man? We don't even know who is on these rosters anymore. Yeah, I mean that is a downside, right? Like a downside is that there's so much turnover that I remember growing up, and I remember I was a Florida Gators fan because I was born in Florida, um, and I remember when Tebow had committed to University of Florida, I followed all the recruiting. Oh, we landed this Tim Tebow guy. Oh, I can't wait to see him get on campus and like develop. And it's just not, you can't really do that anymore because if a guy gets to campus and he doesn't play, he's gone, right? So I understand that because I used to, that was that's what everybody loved about college football and college baseball and any other sport. Wally, what's up, man? Welcome back. Some perspective on high school recruits. Listen to David Esquire, Stanford, or Esker, David Esker. Stanford, I think you didn't spell that right, Wally. You messed me up. Stanford head coach on the D1 ACC podcast. He said he has 4 returning shortstops for 3 positions, and he has a couple stud freshmen that will be waiting for time. Yeah, exactly. Right. Um, and that's, again, Stanford is like a lot of the ACC, a very high academic place. Um, and so what you have to understand is like these very high academic schools like Georgia Tech, Duke, Boston College, Stanford. Um, I'm missing one. Which one am I missing, guys? Duke, Georgia Tech, Stanford, Boston College. Yeah, you get what I'm saying. They're not going to be as, you know, take this with a grain of salt, but they're not going to be as aggressive in the transfer portal just because like the academic requirements there's going to be some junior college players that they can't get. There's going to be some um, there's going to be some other guys that they can't get because of the academics. So Stanford is, but like again at Stanford, this is what they're saying. Scott Peak is ESA based in Georgia. We live in NorCal. My son is open to all schools, but what connection does ESA have with California universities? Thanks. We are based in Georgia. Just that's where I live. But we do work with a lot of kids in California. Have a lot like for example, like Stanford, Stephen Rodriguez, their assistant coach. I play with them in pro ball, so know him really well. Tyler Latore, head coach at Pepperdine, another one of my teammates in professional baseball. So up and down, D2s. A guy I coach with at Georgia Tech is now one of the assistant coach at Westmont, which is one of the best D2s in the country. Actually, just had a kid commit there 3 or 4 weeks ago. So we're very well connected over there in California, whether it's SoCal, NorCal, and up the Pacific Northwest. We've worked with a lot of guys over there. So while we are based in Georgia, we have coast to coast connections and work with a lot of guys over there. So, if Scott, if that's something you're interested in, you can send me a DM or something. We'll talk or whatever. But Hope that answers your question. Deaver, laugh out loud. That's too funny. Yeah, I mean I'm just leaving it up here because it's so funny. Next level prospects. Shortstops are usually the best humans too. Outfielders may be worse than left-handed pitchers. Man, don't say that, dude. Come on, dude. I'm an outfielder. Outfielders are not. What is that supposed to mean? Outfielders are bad humans? What's wrong with outfielders, dude? I think this is like a positionist comment right here. Like this is messed up comment about outfielders. Anyone else agree? Does that actually? I want to know. Do other people think this? Outfielders may be worse than left-handed pitchers. I mean, that's a disgusting comment to compare a position player to a pitcher in general, but saying they're worse than left-handed pitchers. This is like a nuclear bomb getting dropped in the chat right here. Former outfielder, left-handed thrower, left-handed hitter. Kane's disgusting. Vanderbilt, yeah, but I was talking ACC Canes. You're right. Thoughts on Cal? We play them in a few weeks. I think they're going to be okay. I think they're going to be near the bottom of the ACC. They just again, I think they will. I think they will pick up steam now that they're again like the problem with a lot of these Pac-12 schools is that the Pac-12 had been falling off for like a decade. It was very top heavy, like Oregon, Oregon State, UCLA. It was not nearly as deep as the ACC and the SEC, and players knew that. They're not nearly as deep as the Big 12 and even the Big 10. So players knew that. So a lot of the Pac-12 schools started losing recruiting matchups to schools in the better conferences, and then you had teams starting to leave and everything, and so the Pac-12 just basically dissolving. So I do think Cal will continue to get better because now they're recruiting in the ACC, which is again one of the premier conferences in college baseball. The SEC and the ACC are head and shoulders above everyone else. No, Kennedy Jones transferred from UNCG to South Carolina and got benched at the beginning of the season. I spoke with some guys and I ended up hurting it, and it ended up hurting his draft stock. Yeah, but here's Deaver. Um, why did he get benched? Like this is what I like. This is what I is he still at South Carolina? Dude, I don't like. Okay, we're gonna talk about this because, like, I get it, draft stock, but you hit 289 with 10 doubles, one triple, and 9 home runs. Like, sorry, but that's not impressive at all in this climate. You're not getting. I mean, it's gonna be very hard to get drafted with those numbers, right? And that's what I'm trying to tell you guys is this is just not. And let's see what he did at UNCG. All right, so at UNCG he was 367, 357, right? So way better. Um, 11 home runs, 14 home runs. Struck out way more in the SEC. No, not surprising. He did walk more, so kudos to him for walking more, but he struck out a lot more. Basically 50% more in the SEC than he did in UNC Greensboro. And again, he only hit 289. And he played, I don't know how, he got benched? He played the same amount of games as he did at UNC Greensboro. So again, like his draft stock, guys, don't get me wrong. Like he's maybe a good player, maybe highly thought of, but you hit 289 and you played 58 games. You basically started every single game of the year. So I mean, I just don't. Sorry, it definitely didn't hurt his draft stock that he didn't play a game or two. If teams thought he was legit, they would draft him. They wouldn't care about that. Outfielders, outfielders' lives matter. Oh, geez, let's not. Here we go. Outfielders like being alone. True, true. If you are an outfielder, you got to be able, like, you got to be okay. Like that's what, like, it's funny thing. Like my wife will say, like I always say, like, man, I like going out to eat by myself. Like I like kind of going out to eat, like just chilling there with my phone, you know. And she's just like, she thinks I'm a psychopath for that. She's like, how could you ever do that? How could you? Because to her, it's like you look like a loser, I guess. But uh, I'm one of those guys. I mean, maybe that is a prerequisite for playing outfield, but like I'm totally okay with just being alone. Well, he kicked this guy out of the chat. Outfielders are the pitcher's lifeline. Former college outfielder myself. WTF, man. Yeah, I mean, it's unbelievable. It's unbelievable rhetoric from from next. What is it? Who was it that said it? Next level prospect South. I mean, come on, dude. Defend yourself in the chat. I mean, that's bombastic rhetoric. All right, now let's get into some of the other stuff. I've left this picture of this father of maybe soon to be two that's playing at Creighton. Actually, I want to see the comments on this, and I apologize if there's something bad. Sorry, I don't think I'm being clear. I think he's a prime example of grass not always being greener on the other side. I'll elaborate. Oh, okay. Yeah, I was trying to figure out. No, I wasn't saying anything particularly to you. I was just saying, like, to me, that's the excuse you hear from a player when he like doesn't get drafted, even though he doesn't deserve to. It's like, well, they benched me for a game or two, and it hurt my draft stock. And I'm just like, dude, like these scouts are looking at the only thing they care about does this guy have any chance of playing in the big leagues? That's how you get drafted. That's all they're thinking about is can this guy play in the big leagues? So to me, I'm like, you hit 289 in this climate with 9 home runs. That like let me give you an equivalent to my era. That would almost be like hitting like 239 with like 3 home runs. And then saying I should get drafted, or my draft stock was hurt because I got benched. That's the equivalent because these balls just fly now. Like they just, hits. That's what, and I know I've talked to you guys about this before, but it's like when the ball flies better, it doesn't just mean more home runs. It means more balls sneak through the infield. It means more balls just barely get over the outfielder's head. It means more balls get through the gap. It just means like you're hitting the ball harder because the exit velocity is greater, so you're more likely to get a hit. The higher the exit velocity, the more likely a ball is a hit. So if the ball is flying further than it ever has flown in last 2 decades, or the ball is, coming off the bat harder than it has in certainly the last 15 years, then your batting average is going to be higher. You're going to have more hits. You're going to have more extra base hits. It's not just more home runs. That jam job ground ball up the middle that didn't sneak through when I was playing is sneaking through now. So a 289 batting average in this offensive climate is not good. It's not good. It may be okay in college, but like no scout is looking at that like, oh, like that's good. He's gonna be able to hit in the next level. If you strike out 60 something times a year in college, or 62 times in 58 games, and then you're hitting 289, like that's just you're not getting picked. There any rule changes for college baseball? You mean are you talking kind of in-game rule changes? All right, let's look at some other bookmarks real quick. Dude, I don't like how I gotta zoom this in and then I can't click on my bookmarks. All right, let's see here. All right, let's go to I know what we're gonna go to now. All right, so this will be interesting, okay? In game, Coog, I'm not sure in game. I don't know. I don't know if there's any new changes. I'm not sure. I don't think so. I mean, I haven't seen anything announced, but again, I mean, they could say Monday. There's we're going to be doing this or whatever. But I guess we'll see. I haven't heard anything about any new rule changes, like in game, but could be wrong. Perfect example is the video I sent you from the practice of that jam job. Yeah, and I think it said the exit velocity was like 93 or something, which like that's not typically going to be a home run in almost any park. All right, let's see here. All right, that's not the one I wanted to see. Okay. A good example of how schools without football teams can have a big advantage in creating a large payroll for their basketball teams post-house settlement, and maybe some for their baseball team as well. Seton Hall plans to spend 90% of its allowable 20.5 million on its men's basketball team. It won't spend 20.5 million, but it can easily have a $5 million payroll. Against the backdrop of this disastrous season sits a narrative that Seton Hall is not able to compete with the top teams in the league and nationally in NIL money. Seton Hall currently has an NIL budget of about 1.5 million for men's basketball. Oh, poor them. They got no money. Like look at how much money is involved in these and that's what I'm trying to tell you guys like this is going to come for baseball. It will. It may not be this year, it may not be in 3 years, but it will come. Seton Hall has 1.5 million for their basketball team. I'll show the video after this, Canes. All right, we'll watch it. While the top schools in the Big East have a budget closer to between 3 million and 4 million. The vast difference was driven home last month when Naismith's Hall of Fame coach Rick Pitino of St. John's flat out said Red Storm star Kadari Richmond would have stayed at the Hall if the money was close. If the money was close, like, can you imagine we're having these? Like, if you grew up like watching Reggie Bush and in that era and he got everything taken from him because he made some money under the table and now these coaches are just coming out and being like, yeah, well, they just couldn't pay him enough. I think they can use more technology in the dugout this season. Yeah, no, you are right. They are. I think they're allowed to have a tablet or something, um, but it's only allowed to have, I think, like scouting report stuff. Like spray sheet or spray charts. Um, analytics stuff. Not really. I wouldn't classify it as analytics stuff. It's just kind of data. Like you have the strike and ball percentage on each pitch, the percent likelihood in each count, what pitch he throws, stuff like that. So you are right, Drew. That is one change. Because before that, you weren't allowed to have any kind of like phone or a tablet or anything in the club in the dugout during the game. Okay. In a day when top players in the transfer portal are receiving high six and low seven-figure payments, Seton Hall simply hasn't been able to match that to keep its best players from leaving. Richmond and Dre Davis, now at Ole Miss, transferred out of last year's NIT championship team for bigger NIL deals. Both are now excelling for top 25 teams. The expectation is most schools will spend 14 to 18 million on football. So there you go. 14 to 18 million is of the 20.5. I think it's 5, right? Let me just make sure. 20.5 is going to football. 2 million to 4 million on men's basketball and the rest on other sports. So that ain't a lot of money for the rest of the sports. He added, Big East schools can spend much more if they want because they don't have to pay football. Most are already doing 3 to 4 million in NIL. Seton Hall expects to spend 90% of its NIL money from the house settlement on men's basketball and the remainder on women's basketball. NJ Advanced Media has learned. So in that world, Seton Hall essentially would double its NIL budget and be able to pay players more money. Yeah, I mean, it's certainly like Seton Hall all of a sudden is going to be a top 25 team because they can pay guys big time money. Now so who knows? It's going to create some interesting, we're going to see some interesting schools in each sport all of a sudden start rising to the top because they're really, and again, think of like ASU, what we learned yesterday, who's been Like it's just not what everyone thinks of when they think ASU. They haven't been back to that level yet, but they're going all in. So all of a sudden, let's say 2 years from now, you see ASU preseason top five. You know why? They can get the best players. Seton Hall athletic director Brian Felt declined comment for the story through a spokesperson, but told NJ Advanced Media at Big East Media Day in October that the school is looking forward to the revenue sharing. We're going to go to revenue sharing, which Seton Hall is 110% completely into. By the fall of 25, you'll be in the middle of revenue share. The biggest message to our fans will that they can make their gift to the athletic department like they were always doing. And that essentially is an NIL gift because that's all going to revenue share, which is essentially the same thing. Your gift to Pirate Blue will be utilized like an NIL gift would have been utilized. Okay. All right, let's see what you guys are saying. There's got to be a way to regulate that. I'm sure there will be teams having a secret folder on the tablet showing live feed. Yeah, uh, I agree, Coog. Like I don't know how, um, you know, what I will say is there's cameras in the dugout now. There's so many cameras and all these, especially like the higher level college baseball. So I mean, if you were doing that, but again, you could have a tablet and just like be hiding in the tunnel and be like, hey, it's a fastball. But you really can't pick up. There's no advantage now from watching, let's say, from a center field camera trying to pick up signs because none of these teams now are catchers are putting down signs. None of them, right? They all they have the headpiece and they just call out a number or something and then or they just push a button and these guys have wristbands and they're like, oh, slider. So there's no sign, right? So you're not getting the advantage of watching from a tablet, um, like you would think. But who knows? There could be other ways to do stuff, and there's got to be some kind of way to do it. He started off at UNCG and went crazy and had good draft stock. I spoke to a scout from the A's who openly said they wanted to draft him until he transferred, and they saw him against SEC pitching. Yeah, exactly, guys. Um, is that Durrell, by the way, the A's scout that you talked to? I know a few of those guys pretty well, but um, exactly. So, what did he do? He balled out at UNCG. He thought the grass was greener, and again, kind of exposed himself to SEC pitching. And it's like I said, if he had been at UNCG and hit like 12 home runs at 350 like he had in the previous years, he gets drafted. And maybe they find out in his pro career that he can't handle the higher level pitching. But he goes to the SEC and exposes himself, and scouts like, oh, hold up here. This don't look the same against better competition. So I mean that makes total sense. Should have just stayed at UNCG. Grass isn't always greener. Yeah, I mean, and listen, I get it. It's tough because if you're a college kid and South Carolina's willing to give you some NIL money, like let's say 75 or 100 grand. I understand that being tough to turn down, but you do have to. And I can't I can't tell you which way is the right way to go, but he definitely by going to South Carolina and performing the way he did, he exposed himself. And not on purpose. He just didn't know that was going to happen. Graham Rossini is just trying to save his pal Willie's job. Yeah, man. I mean, I don't know, dude. I think Willie's the man for the job. I just think like this is what doesn't get said, right? It's just this, and there's just a lot of programs that we all, and I'm 33 years old, so we all grew up. I grew up thinking ASU is one of the best programs in the country. Rice is one of the best programs in the country, right? Like Long Beach State, one of the best programs in the country. And it's just as the decades have gone on, certain teams have fallen from that category. A lot of other teams have got into that category. And so when you're not seen as one of the best programs in the country, it's just harder to land the best guys. And if you don't have access to NIL or whatever, it's even harder to land the best guys. So recruiting is not just about how good like what I'm trying to say is that coaches do have a major impact on how their team performs. But if you're not winning recruiting battles because of facilities or because of past performance as a team, it gets harder to get the better players, man. And so, I mean, I don't think ASU's in a bad spot. I just think this commitment to really going all in is going to help them big time in the recruiting battles. What's your plan format for the shows once the season starts? So I think I'm going to do, you know, same time every day. And then definitely during the weekend, right? I'm still trying to feel it out and everything, but want to do like some watch parties where, we're all watching the same game. I can't stream it live because it would be, my YouTube account will get blown up and everything. But we can talk through the game, talk about what we're seeing, uh, bad decisions, right decisions. Um, did that pitch call make sense there? And just give you my perspective, and you guys give me your perspective on what you're seeing, and just enjoy watching the game and hang out. Um, but that's the plan. And then obviously during the week, cover which teams looked good, which teams looked bad, um, everything like that. You have you have any counterparts here in Texas? Yes, I do. Utah Jones is he's around the Dallas area, Dallas Fort Worth area. He's our Texas kind of Arkansas, Louisiana, Kansas. I mean that Oklahoma. He's our advisor in that region. That's what's happening with us. We've only been to Omaha twice in the last 15 years. Oh no, Canes, only twice? Only twice? Like that's how you know Miami is like so uh spoiled with like their history in college baseball because he's like, we've only been to Omaha twice in the last 15 years. It's like there's a lot of programs would be like, man, I wish we made a regional twice in the last 15 years. When we made it to Omaha 14 straight years in the 1980s and 90s. Dakota Ford. OMG, this man is so beautiful. I will get lost in between his. Um, I don't know what that was. So I don't honestly like. I don't know if I'm just like too old now. I don't know what that really meant, but okay. I worry the same thing will happen to Robbie Burnett going from UNC Asheville to Georgia. It's definitely a possibility for everybody, right? Because if it's one thing if you transfer from the ACC to the SEC, um, there may be like the general rule of thumb for the last like 10, 15 years has been that the SEC, yeah, it's definitely spam buck. The SEC has had maybe slightly more velocity in the league, but the ACC has a lot more guys with like off-speed command, can pitch backwards. Like a lot of times the ACC was called the all curveball conference because like guys, there was a lot more guys that threw more breaking stuff. Um, so if you go from the SEC to the ACC or the ACC to the SEC, it's not that big of a change, right? It's really not. But if you go from a mid-major conference to the SEC, that's a step up. Like that's a serious step up in just like the average arm you're facing on a day-to-day basis in the season. So it's that's a chance. It's a chance. But I wasn't born for any of this school's glory days. It's just been flash and no substance. We need to get back to Omaha, our second home. Oh my gosh, our second home. Oh my gosh. No, I get it, dude. I get it. I mean, listen, like Georgia Tech has not made it out of a regional in almost 20 years, almost 20 years, I think, or around that amount of time. And I was part of that. My freshman year, we had a stacked team, and it hurt us that our Friday guy went down and really couldn't, tried to pitch in the first inning, and he couldn't go. So our bullpen just got destroyed game one, having to cover 9 innings. But we didn't play very well either. I didn't play very well, and we ended up getting beaten that regional, and that team was just loaded. I mean, we had one, two, three, four. Trying to think who else. We had like five. Oh, yeah, we had five, six. We had six big leaguers on that team. Are Daniel Palka, Jacob Esch, Matt Skoll, Buck Farmer, Jed Bradley, Luke Bard. Trying to think if any of our pitchers. Anyway, I mean, we had a lot. I mean, we had a lot of, like, let's say we had like six or seven big leaguers, like four or five guys that made it to AAA. So I mean, we were stacked. We were stacked. We had I mean, we had a pro team, but we didn't make it out of the regional. Cougs only have two appearances, and that was 53 and 67. All right, see, yeah, exactly, exactly. Kane's like, we've only been twice in the last 15 years. Kane, save it, Kane, save it. Meant to ask you about Molinax. Don't want to dump on the kid, but he had a PG-10 rating and amazing metrics. However, his travel game stats were underwhelming. Problem I have with PG focus on metrics. So does it surprise that he didn't get a shot at UGA after the fall? No, I'm not surprised because, like I said, I mean, I think Buck, I think you heard this, but I talked with, I don't want to say who I talked with, right? But I talked with a member of the staff, um, and they basically said like good player, probably a little bit overhyped coming out of high school, and basically kind of said, when a guy is so widely hyped by all the perfect games, the prep baseballs, it kind of it makes you susceptible to confirmation bias. So you go watch the kid play, and when he does something like good, you're like, man, this kid's really good. And when he does something okay, you're like, you think it's better than just okay. And basically, they said, he's the bat was not ready to start for us, right? And that's the number one outfielder in the state of Georgia, or at least that's how he was rated. And that they told me he wasn't ready to hit for us. Like he probably was a little bit better defender than some of the guys that are going to be starting, but like the bat was not. We want we just want to hit. We just want to bang. Like we want a bunch of guys who are going to hit bombs, and that's Georgia's offense. If you look at I mean, they're going to hit a bunch of home runs, and so that was the strategy. So it was one part strategy and one part he was just not as good as a lot of people thought he was. And the only reason I got involved and even really talking about it was because I saw so many people saying he's just transferring for the draft, and I basically, I'm like, I've been doing this a long time. I've never heard of a guy going to a Power Four school and then leaving of his own accord because he wants to get drafted at a JUCO. And so I'm like, that doesn't make any sense. I'm like, it makes way more sense that he was told he's not going to play, which is fine, and that's what happened. They just told him you're not going to play. Uh, you probably should go get at bats at JUCO. And so he's at the best JUCO, one of the best JUCOs in the country. So he's not any worse for wear, and he's going to get some at bats. But time will tell what kind of player he turns into. And the worst part is the best two teams we've had in the last 20 years was 2020 COVID when we were number one with six arms. Dude, that team was stacked. That team was stacked. Um, and we had a really, when I was coaching at Georgia Tech in 2020 with COVID season, we had a really good team too. I mean, we had we had a really good rotation, good offense. I mean, you talk about a team really getting screwed over in that year was University of Georgia. When you have like you have like basically two first round pick starting pitchers. They were going to be really good, and unfortunately for that staff, that was their probably maybe the best team they had in Scott Strickland's tenure at UGA, and they didn't get to play. So Mullinax had a PG-9 from the age of 14. His measurables were off the chart. However, the swing is mechanical, and game stats show that, with definitely no power. Yeah, I don't know any. I mean, what were his? Just to be, just for clarity, Buck. Like, what were his game? What was his like game stats? Like, if you just kind of generalized them. Um, I'll actually look at here. See. I did the first thing I read was Drew Waters comp, and I was sitting there thinking like, what happened to Drew Waters? Because I remember seeing him play and thinking he was going to be good. Man, he's just actually he was really good in the minors. Yeah, he was really good in the minors this year. He's with Kansas City. Hmm. His numbers have really gone down in the minor leagues though. And yeah, I guess he's gotten 414 at bats in the major leagues and just really hadn't been able to do anything. That's tough. I mean, that's a good comp. And that kid, you want to talk about talent? I remember seeing him after he got drafted, um, and just thought, man, this kid's legit. All right, let's see here. He hit 277 his senior year with not much, like in high school. Travel, okay. I was about travel, but even travel ball, like that's terrible. That's not good. Just because what you have to understand is that like you're like think about it like this, and what you have to do, you do have to take into account that a lot of these travel ball tournaments are wood bat tournaments. So like no, guys' numbers are going to be lower than they would be with a metal bat, and usually significantly lower because most kids, even at a junior and senior level in high school, are not good enough to, are not strong enough, not comfortable enough swinging a wood bat, so they're just going to be worse. Um, but that's still not good. You'd like to see that in the 300 range or higher. So that makes sense. With not much OPS, that's crazy. Exit velocity 10, yeah. Travel ball night high school, yeah. Have you done a space on Twitter? No, I haven't, but I'm thinking about doing them. I just don't like my thing is if I'm going to do this, why would I do a space? But I do think spaces are cool because then other people can talk. So I've thought about it. Maybe I will start doing those as well. Maybe like at night or something. I don't know. But I've definitely thought about it. I just don't really know what my format would be for the space. And I like, am I going to have to invite a bunch of people in there that I think are good spokesmen for certain things? I don't know. Robbie Burnett was a monster in the Big South. 339 batting average, 630 slugging, and 1,000 plus OPS. Definitely rooting for him at Georgia. Yeah, and I think most guys. The thing is, most guys get pretty close to replicating what they did at the schools they transferred from, but just in some cases, it doesn't quite happen. But still, he'll probably be okay. He'll probably be fine. That's terrible. I get that the travel tournaments he was playing in were top level competition in some wood bat, but still, no. I mean, if you're the number one guy in the state and one of the highest ranked guys in the country, um, he was considered the 10th best outfielder in the country, and 52nd overall. So this is what like. Remember, I told you guys that I played with, and I'm not saying this about him in particular. It's a totally different era now. But I played against guys who were top 50 type players, and you get on campus and you're like, dude, this guy's like a good player, but he's a decent baseball player, but he's not number 50 in the country. His measurables were amazing, and again, what you have to understand is, a lot of these 60 times on here are way faster than they really are because they're in track spikes, they're running on turf where it's always going to be faster. They're not running on grass. But again, his measurable still, even if he's like a 6'5" runner, I mean, his measurables are great. But it's, I don't know. Not as good of a baseball player as he is a showcase guy. You should be batting over 400 in high school. Oh, definitely in high school ball. Like if you're going to be a power four player, that's, yeah, and walking a lot. Just started getting into this stuff. Father of a 27, since it was mentioned. Any quick thoughts on PG rankings, etc.? Yeah, I mean, I think they do. I think they do a decent job, Jared. This is my take. Is like, listen, they're like their evaluation is scaled at, to a massive amount of players. So are they going to be wrong about some guys? Yes. Are they going to be right about guys? Sure. But it's not a, again, when you watch these, like this Michael Mullinax kid. So this is the kid we're talking about. Um, I'll pull up the page so you guys can see. So this guy was the number one outfielder in the state of Georgia, number 10 outfielder uh, in the country in the 24 class. He goes to University of Georgia, and now he's at Chipola because he he got cut. It didn't necessarily get cut, but he got told, 3 months ago after the fall was over that you're not going to be getting many at bats. So most parents would think, oh, this guy's gonna they're gonna start this guy because he's so ranked highly ranked, perfect game. Nope. I talked to the guys at Georgia. They said he's a good player, but probably a little overhyped. Is end quote. So it's just what I think about the rankings. What I do say is they're good for getting your metrics on there and your measurables, but do not put a lot of stock into where the ranking is because again, there's guys like Mullinax who are super highly ranked, but then they get on campus and everyone's kind of like, not really, doesn't really look like the type of player we thought we were getting. So I usually recommend Jared like one a year, like a perfect game showcase or a prep baseball showcase. They do a really good job getting the metrics. And again, the metrics are great because when a coach is looking, they go, oh, okay, let me see. Oh, if I'm reaching out for one of my clients to the staff and I'm like, hey, here's some video. Yeah, he was up to 88 today, making a big jump. And they go to perfect game and look and they think, okay, okay, Kyle said he's up to 88 now. Okay, in August, 6 months ago, he was throwing 86. Okay, that makes sense. He's made 6 months, he's made a couple mile an hour gain. All right, okay. So it's great to have your metrics on there because coaches can use it to kind of as just another reference point to make sure and verify information. Graham, can't you do both space and YouTube simultaneously? Maybe. Yeah, I think you might be able to. We'll have to see, I guess. But that would be cool. That would be cool. Maybe we'll try that next week. Maybe we'll try it next week. Again, I don't want to dump on Molinax, but he was set up for failure, overhyped, and you see what happens. That's what frustrates me in PG as it is, as I see it in my son's age group. Over index on measurables. Yeah. And again, that's always going to be the case because they can't follow these kids around all the time. Um, and like just to be totally honest, I mean, some of the people doing evaluations, they don't know what they're talking about. They don't know what they're seeing. Um, so that's the other part of this is, if you got a guy tweeting out stuff and making evaluations and he's got no history being around the game at a high level, how accurate is evaluation going to be? You know what I mean? I played with Francisco Lindor in the fall league. I played against the best players in the game as they were coming up through the minor league system. Josh Hader was my teammate. I hit off Josh Hader. Like I know what makes guys good and how they look and how they move and everything like that. So if you don't have that experience, it doesn't mean you can't be accurate. It just means it's probably less likely that you are accurate at what you're saying in your evaluation. To me, perfect game ratings are a joke. They're not a joke. Okay. Again, just don't don't go all in on the perfect game rating. Go all in on getting your metrics once a year, getting them updated, stuff like that. Don't worry about the ranking. I don't care about PG rankings. Those have a lot of issues. I'm talking about ratings. They're 0 to 10 scale, which is heavily biased to measurables versus gameplay. Yes, 100%. That's true. And like how else can it be? How else can how else can the rating work, right? I mean, that rating is basically based on your physical measurables. Um, and they even, it even says it, right? In this description on this page, real switch hit ability, which is like, what does real switch hit ability mean, right? So that's what I'm talking about is that some of these people that are doing evaluations, they have no idea what they're looking at. So basically they watch him hit BP and like it looks good from both sides and they say real switch hit ability. Okay. Uh, it's like watching me hit BP and being like, he's got real hitability because he hit BP. It just doesn't make sense. Feel for barrel hit 277 in the summer, but he's got feel for barrel, right? So the ratings and kind of the write ups are all based on like basically a showcase. Covers ground and center field. Well, I'll tell you what I heard from the staff at Georgia was like, he's a good defender, but like nothing crazy, right? Because what a lot of these guys assume, some of these evaluators at with some of these places, what they assume is like, oh, he runs a 6'3", he's a really good outfielder. And it's like, no, he's really fast. He may be a bad outfielder. And I've played with a lot of guys who were really fast and they were terrible outfielders. So like speed does not make the outfielder, but according to here, and the Drew Waters comp is just Drew Waters. I mean that kid was really good, and he's still playing. I mean he's got almost 500 at bats in the big leagues. So it's just who knows. Jared, thumbs up. Yeah, no problem, dude. Yeah, I've been thinking of good old fashioned networking may still be where it's at. I mean, it can be. It can be. I mean, the problem is these guys are so busy now. It's hard to get, if you're talking about networking with coaches, obviously that's what we do, at Elite Sports Advising, but it is tough to kind of get into that circle, I will say. I mean, it's tough because it's such a small world. We all we all played against each other in college or coached against each other or we played against each other in pro ball. We trained in the off season together. So it's just like everybody kind of knows everybody. I chuckle when I see all these young kids with PG paraphernalia. Yeah, no, I get it. Well, PG's new showcase is called and we talked about this, Buck. This is way better. Have kids play 3 games with evaluators, radar guns, etc. But that doesn't seem to factor given it's a new format. But they have to work that out. Yeah, they got to find a way to work that into the eval, right? If you the measurables are great, but man, he looked really bad in the games, and that's the problem with baseball and why they're never going to be perfect. Because think about even 3 games. Like in college, you're judged off 62. In professional baseball, you're judged off 150 plus. So, man, if you saw me at my worst 3 games, you think I was terrible. You saw me at my best 3 games, you're like, this guy's gonna play in the big leagues 100%. So, like even 3 games, it's like, oh, you may catch him on a bad stretch or really good stretch. So it's even 3 games. I think that it's there. I think it's a move in the right direction, but it's never going to be um, as accurate as it can be because like you're just baseball seasons are very long. I know Perfect Game is doing their best, but let's be honest, it's a business. If they're charging you $400 to get an evaluation, how does it benefit them to absolutely rip you apart and post it online? No, 100%, 100%. They're never going to do that because it like that's the thing. It says like the PG grading, and it says like 1 to 10. Have you guys ever seen a 1 on Perfect Game on a rating? Have you ever seen a 2? Have you ever seen a 3? Have you ever seen a 4? 4 is supposed to be high school JV. We should be seeing a lot of 4s on these. 5 is possible college prospect and or possible high school varsity. I don't know how those two get in the same ranking. Possible college prospect and possible varsity player. Can you guys figure that out for me? How is it that you're a possible varsity player, meaning you may not even be good enough to play varsity in high school, but you may be a possible college player? Like the college players are just the best high school players. 6 is potential college prospect. 7 is college prospect, possible future draft pick with development. So, and I mean, you guys know what I'm saying, though. It's just like they also have ghost runners, which is horrible. Lowest I've seen is a 7.5. Yeah, I don't think I've ever seen anything. I think I may have seen like a 6.5, but I haven't seen anything lower than that. I agree that PG overemphasized stats, but does it still get college schools' attention? Um, in a way, it does, Graham. Right? I mean, what Perfect Game does is, like I said, it's a platform for coaches to get reliable metrics. So, is I say this all the time. Is anyone going to get a scholarship offer from a school based on their perfect game profile? No. But it is a place where coaches can go and verify metrics that they're either getting from like a third party, or they see a kid one time. All right, I'm going to go to perfect game and see what he was over the course of the summer and see if he was around that or if I just saw him on his best day. Right. So that's where it is. That doesn't add up. Yeah, I agree. And I got to drop off here soon though. Dear Smith agree. They don't dump. The critique is constructive, but rating is limited. And this is coming from my son. Actually, got a scouting note from the showcase, but only 20 out of 200 got one. Even kids that I've seen that really need a lot of work still get a 7 or 8. It's a business first. Yeah, 100%. Craig, what's up, man? They are using that new math they teach kids today. Yeah, hey, 100%, Craig. 100%. You're not wrong about that. All right, guys. Sorry, I got to drop off. But great stream today. Great discussion.